Hi, guys. Welcome back to another episode of The Rope of Hope. My name is Kimberly. I'm your host, and a lot of you already know me. But just in case you don't, figured I'd throw that out there. Again, this is The Rope of Hope. These are real stories from people that have experienced them. Today, I have Dina with me. How are you today, Dina?
Hey, Kimberly, thank you so much for having me on. I actually had goosebumps from that intro, so yeah.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, Dina, why don't you tell everybody just a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So I'm a corporate escapee. I have 18 years in the corporate world in marketing and media, and I had an 8-year battle with burnout. And it took me probably about 7 years to discover that it was actually burnout and to come to terms with the fact that I had to do something to change my life. I'm a 2-time cancer survivor and recently diagnosed with a heart condition caused by stress. But I'm also a competitive athlete. So yeah, I think probably about 18 months ago, I made the decision to completely change my life, my pace. I mean, I love the fast life, don't get me wrong. But I wanted to make sure that I was doing everything that I loved and that kind of burn that fire for me, to spark that flame for me. So yeah, and just be a role model to my son. So yeah, it was a big transformation. Very exciting things in the pipeline, but yeah, it took a lot of digging deep, I'd say.
And that's kind of our focus today is really on life changes because you've had some monumental life changes. And you actually brought up just a couple of them right there. So let's go ahead and jump on in. Are you good with starting with like the cancer aspect?
Sure.
Okay. I
Yeah.
will let you take over your story.
Cool. So yeah, it took me as my marriage was breaking down, we did what a lot of married couples and parents do to try and save a marriage and try and have a second child. So my son was, I think, 8 at the time, and I couldn't get pregnant. I had about 8 miscarriages, and it just wasn't happening. And I started IVF. And in one of the scans, the doctor was like, I think we need to get something checked out. Referred me over to gynecology, and I was on the operating table the next day. So I had a very aggressive tumor in my uterus. But I mean, I thank the universe, anyone up in the sky, that it was that IVF journey that helped me discover that, because it was I mean, I'm still in my 30s, and it was unheard of at the time. No one suspected it. I had been to here in the UK, we call them general practitioners, the GP. So I think with you guys, it's probably like family practice. And I went to him several times saying, I feel there's something wrong with my body. He's like, no, you're not of that age, blah, blah, blah. And yeah, so that was my first kind of discovery there. I had surgery immediately. Luckily, it was still at early stages. 2 years later, I relapsed. Same place. Again, had to have surgery with a bit of treatment this time. And I think at that point, I was just in the 2 years in between, I was just digging myself into this deeper black hole. I was working more. And it was like I was trying to escape something, but I was getting myself into a lot more of a rut than I already was. So yeah, I think that second time around was a very, very big wake up call for me.
So I just can't even imagine. You go through 8 miscarriages to find out cancer.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you even process that mentally?
I didn't. So my natural way, my very Dina way of handling things is kind of head down. I put my head in the sand and I crack on with life. And as long as nothing's stopping me in my tracks, obviously I couldn't train. I trained 2 hours a day in the gym for what I do. And yeah, I mean, it would literally the weeks passed after surgery. I was allowed to train again, went straight back at it, spent longer in the office, and I kind of, went out more, socialized more, and it just, it was that head in the sand kind of, let's suppress this and do whatever else can keep me occupied, really.
Okay, so you've been trying to save the marriage. You try to have a baby unsuccessfully. Where's the marriage at that point?
You mean now or back, or at that point then?
After the first round with cancer.
So nope, it was still, it was back to square one. It was, I was with my ex-husband for 20 years. So, since I was 16, actually. So, it was a long story and a long love story, but we just grew into different people. So I don't think it was salvageable, at the time.
Okay. So did that end before the second bout of cancer, or?
No, so it was ending and neither of us could kind of let go. So we decided that we just live our own lives, but the kind of, we stayed living in the same house. It worked for us financially at the time, and for our son, of course. And I guess it worked. But then, and that stayed probably for another 3 years after that. And I officially got divorced last year.
Okay, I was gonna say, where was that breaking point?
Yeah, exactly. And we got divorced last year. I moved out of London, bought my own place. We each bought our own places. Really good relationship right now. And it's, I don't know why we didn't do it sooner. It's probably fear of the unknown, to be honest, because we get on so well. We have so much respect, admiration, love for each other, just not in that way. So we have a beautiful relationship and I'm really thankful for it now.
And you are very lucky in that aspect, because not a lot of divorced couples have that. So as a parent, it thrills me to hear that you're co-parenting well. That's a good thing. Okay, so we've gone trying to have a baby, miscarry, cancer again. Where has that story, where does that slope go now?
So from kind of the second time, that was I went away for 3 months. I called my mum one day. I was like, Mum, can you babysit for 3 months? Because I need to rediscover myself, because I have no idea what I'm doing with myself, with my life, with anything. And luckily, I have a super supportive mum, and it wasn't 3 months, it was 6 weeks, but I went away for the first time in my life. I went traveling by myself. And I took the time I needed to find answers, to explore my life and self and what I wanted to do. I didn't come back with all of the answers. I don't think there's ever this kind of self-discovery trip as such.
None of us have arrived.
Exactly. Exactly. But it opened up my eyes on that journey to self-development, self-awareness, the law of attraction, all of that stuff. That's when I started learning about it, reading about it. My life was very much, and my mentality was very much like school, university, corporate career, boom, 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 you get to the top, and that is what life is, and then you die. Right? That's what I was taught. That's what I was always taught to believe. So I knew nothing else. I knew nothing about kind of anything else out there. I was just on this kind of tunnel vision path. So it was weird. I just started listening to like podcasts and YouTube videos, and things resonated for me. And week after week, I could start seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. Like for me, I was in such a deep, dark place. I kid you not. I would try to look up at the sky and I couldn't see clouds. I'd see black space. That's how bad I was. I was probably depressed, but I never allow myself. Like the more down I feel, the more I add to my plate. Just not, and that's just the way I used to handle things.
And I was actually about to ask, do you think depression was setting in?
Yeah.
And how were you coping? Which you obviously just said, you think it probably was there, but you denied it.
Exactly.
So where are you at now in this place in your life?
So right now, so probably about 18 months on, I mean, COVID, to be honest, and I say this with all the respect to everyone out there, is probably one of the best things that happened to me. The time, not COVID as in the virus, but the time and lockdown that it provided in the world, because it gave me 5 minutes to myself outside of my corporate job to just know what it's like. I never cooked a meal in my house ever, because I was out from 5:30 in the morning. I'd be back at 9 p.m. I never saw the sun. That was my pace of life. And yeah, it just wasn't realistic, and I crashed and I burned. So I mean, when lockdown came, I was like forced to kind of like slow down, and I was like, oh, I can cook. Let's start looking at recipes, and that was it just picked up momentum, and I started questioning. I'm like, what the hell have I been doing for the past how many years, yeah, so my ex-husband and I got divorced. We were able to sell the house. We each moved out. All of that stuff. I started my own business. I left the corporate world, and I am in the best place I have ever known in my entire life. And yeah, it's taken a lot of discipline and kind of feel the fear and do it anyway kind of approach. But I am honestly in the best place mentally and physically that I've been in a very, very long time.
So through all of this, because that's a whole lot of change in a very short period of time.
Yeah.
What was the scariest part of it? The scariest moment?
I think the scariest moment was leaving my house and knowing, and I remember that day, oh, I'm getting emotional now. I remember that day I had to go into a rented house because my house wasn't ready yet, because obviously everything was still locked down. And I moved into the rented house, and my son was with his dad, and it was just me and the dog. And I sat and I cried for about 5 hours. I just released all of this crazy emotion. And I was like, my life has actually just changed. I didn't know whether it was good or bad. I had a lot of guilt, regret, everything came up at once. And I think that was my most fearful moment. And I had to really take it one day at a time. Yeah.
So what was the absolute best moment?
I think the best moment was probably the day I moved into the house that I bought for myself. And I was like, this is mine. I made this. This is my, like, yeah. And it's, I mean, in the UK, it's much harder to get on the property ladder. Like, London's so expensive. It's a very different kind of playing field. And I got a pretty nice house with a garden, and I was like, I made this for myself. And my son was with me the day we moved in. And I think, yeah, I was like, this is a new start.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, I'm so floored by your story, but I'm like also just so touched, because I think there's so many different aspects of the change that people can relate to that, and it doesn't have to be that severe of a change. But change is hard and it's scary. And so it's so good to see that you were able to come out on the other side of it just such a bigger person.
Yeah.
I absolutely love that. I do have one final question for you.
Sure.
I warned you this question was going to happen.
Yeah.
It has absolutely nothing to do with what we've talked about, but every guest has answered this question up to this point. Throughout your entire life, what is the most inspiring thing that has been said to you? See, I told you I was going to put you on the spot.
No, I love it. I love it. And I've got the answer, and I said it a few minutes ago, and this is something that I speak to all of my clients about, like, I literally, if I could, I'll probably tattoo it somewhere on me. And it is, feel the fear, but do it anyway, because fear holds us back from so much in life. And it may be, we tend to think of the big change, the big transformation, when tiny actions, but the fear holds us back from the tiny actions that'll help us feel more confident in that journey. And it is such, yeah, I read it, I have it on top of my bed, and I think that is truly what changed my life, because we all feel fear. We all, I mean, it's part of our survival instinct. And to feel the fear, but choose to make a change or take a step forward or sideways or whatever it is in your journey, is, it just gives you that feeling of, oh, it's like you're unstoppable. And I think that is my biggest one.
I absolutely love that. With your permission, I am going to make a slide and put that on the Facebook page at some point. And I may actually get it tattooed as well. I mean, I'm covered in tattoos anyways. What's another one? Best form of therapy I've ever had.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Dina, thank you so much for coming on my show today. It has been such a pleasure to speak with you. I'm so glad that we were able to connect. You guys, I hope that you are thoroughly being touched and blessed by these stories. If these stories are inspiring you, please keep me caffeinated. buymeacoffee.com/this fat girl life. I hope you all have a great mommy's day, and I will talk to you later.